welcome to A Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and this is my second take for this video because the first one I had to stop because my kids were yelling at each other upstairs. Anyway, I'm probably not going to do a third take, so if the yelling starts, it's just going to stay in the video. But today I am going to do a book review. I don't usually do just a review video of a single book, but there were some specific reasons why I wanted to do it for this one. So the book is Come Tell Me How You Live, an Archaeological Memoir by Agatha Christie Mallowan, or Agatha Christie. Agatha Mallowan was actually her name for the bulk of her life. Christie was her first married name. Her second husband was Max Mallowan. But she had already started writing as Agatha Christie, so that's what we know her as. This is, so the two reasons why I wanted to do a review on this book. One is I really love this book. Spoiler, I loved it. Second is last week I did a video where I talked through some of the problematic issues with like anti-Semitic and racist remarks in Agatha Christie's books and sensitivity, editing, and things like that. And I thought that this was a really good follow-on for a couple reasons, which I will get to. But let me start by telling you what it is. In 1930, Agatha Christie and Max Mallowan got married, I believe, in 1928. He was 22, she was 38, I think so. As I said, you go girl. And they had a very long, the marriage lasted the rest of her life. They were very happy together and they were very supportive of each other. But they were going to go to Syria and Iraq to, for Max Mallowan's first archaeological dig that he led. She met him on an archaeological dig, but not one that he was leading, just one he was working on. This is one he was leading. And when she came back, people kept asking her like, oh, so tell me, did you sleep at, what happened? Did you sleep in a tent? How did you do this? And so this book, she started this book as an answer to that. How did I live when I was there? If you think you know Agatha Christie because you've read Poirot and Marple, you're going to be really surprised by this book because this is, this book is just pages of joy and delight. It starts out with, I'm going to put this down. It starts out with Agatha Christie. They've decided they're going to make this trip. So she gets her vacation clothes out because it's going to be hot down there and none of them fit. So she has to go buy new clothes, but it's out of season. So the vacation clothes aren't in the stores. And then the sales clerk suggests that maybe she should try outsized, which is like plus size. The elephants are coming. And so I'm like, that is a very, very relatable incident. And everything she talks about is in just delightful little, this is the way it was. I mean, this was written, I think, for her friends more than for public consumption. My guess is she probably kept journals and she wrote from that. Agatha Christie was a fearless woman. And she loved adventure. And this book, that really shows in this book. She talks about, you know, all their travel arrangements, their, So Agatha Christie was an adventurous woman and she loved trying new things, and she was fearless. This book talks about everything from their living arrangements to the food to all the people that they worked with. There's one passage I love of her. So she was working on the digs as well. I believe she also helped finance them. She was working on the digs as well, but she also brought a typewriter. So in the afternoon she would go in and she would type, and they had someone on the dig. It was another English, I assume another Englishman. He had a name that was, I guess he could have been American. I don't know, but he was an Englishman. And he would kind of wander around and he tried to talk to her while she was writing. And she would give him, you could just tell that she gave him that look that I give my husband when I'm trying to read. And he won't stop talking to me. It's just, girl, I hear you. I hear you. This book is very readable. I'll rephrase that. The prose of this book is very readable. Let me do a little aside here. I did have some problems with the font of this version of the book. It was sometimes very blurry, and on my eyes, it was hard to read. Obviously not Agatha Christie's fault. That is William Morrow. That's their problem. But the narrative, the prose was very easy to read and just delightful. I loved this. I blew through it. Her description of the people and the places were wonderful. And one thing that Agatha Christie is frequently criticized about is that she's a very plotty. Obviously she writes mysteries. Mysteries are just plotty kinds of books, but her strength is not character development. I don't agree with that, but the characters, and these were real people, but the characters that she developed in this book are amazing and lifelike and wonderful. So I loved it. This was a great book. Now, going back to the issues of Agatha Christie and her problematic of her time views that sneak into her book. I was worried going into this. I had just finished reading Lord Edgware Dies, which was very hard to read because of a few racist comments and a lot of anti-Semitic comments. So I was very worried about what would be in here. I'm not going to say there was nothing. There were two, I will talk to him in a moment, two sort of instances where I would pinpoint that and say, this is a little strange. But really, she's more curious about learning about other cultures than, she's not judgmental about them. She's just very curious about them. And she talks, what she learns about them. And she wants to talk to the people and learn what they're talking, what their lives are like. Which leads me to believe when she makes these anti-Semitic comments in her books, which does stop. She, after World War II, and she saw what happened in the Holocaust, her views changed. She quit making those comments. She was someone who would change and could open her eyes. And I think honestly, she just didn't know any Jewish people. And so she only, the sort of stereotypes, that's all she knew. And here she's meeting all sorts of different types of people, and she really wants to get to know them. So the two places where I think there was a little bit of a cringe, but it wasn't really a cringe. One is she gets, that traveler's disease. I will say there's a lot of talk about poop in this book. I should say there's more talk about diarrhea and constipation than actual poop. But, if you're someone who doesn't like that, just beware. There's poop and diarrhea. There's poop in this book. Anyway, she's sick. She has what she calls, what we would call in Iraq Baghdad tummy, or in Egypt a jippy tummy, which sounds really bad, and it is really bad. But do we not today, have Montezuma's revenge? That's even worse. I would say I think that is probably even worse than what she writes in this book. And that's a term that's thrown around freely these days for people who, have, traveler's diarrhea. I did not think it'd be talking about diarrhea so much in this video. I'm sorry, but that is a term that is commonly used. So no, it wasn't great then, but you know what? It's not great now either. So it's really hard to point out to her and say, oh, that was insensitive, when we are doing the exact same thing today. So maybe we should look at ourselves. The other one was one that really gave me pause. She talks about a group of people. They're called the Yazidis. I had never heard of them before. And basically, she describes them in a very academic way. Very dispassionate. This is what they believe. And basically, she says, well, she doesn't basically. She comes out and says they're Satan worshipers, which I'm like, okay, that's weird. So I went to that place that has all the knowledge in the world, Wikipedia, and I looked them up. The Yazidis are not devil worshipers. They are a small ethnic group, either related to or alongside the Kurds in like Iraq and Syria. Their faith is monotheistic with a triune God, like Christianity, but the actual faith is a lot more like Zoroastrianism. One face of their triune God is what they call the peacock angel, which in the past was translated to Lucifer, angel of the morning star, which is Satan. And that's where that whole idea that they were Satan worshipers came up with. Wrong and horrible. But here's the thing. At that time, and actually until fairly recently, that was the accepted idea of what these people believed. So if you were to take an anthropology class from an anthropologist in the 1930s and they were talking about the Yazidis, you would learn that they were Satan worshipers. Not true. It's not true, and it never was true. That basically comes both from like a little bit of their language is a little different, so it's a little bit of a linguistic misunderstanding, but also they've always been persecuted by the larger, more powerful groups in the area. So I think that there was some cultural warfare going on there with that. But Agatha Christie comes in. She only knows what she's told. In fact, she even says she's told by a Mohammedan, which is a Muslim. That was the term that was accepted at the time. I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that that is a derogatory term even now. It's just not used. I don't know. Forgive me. Please correct me, educate me if you know. But so she's told by them, by this group of people. And she's also, it looks to me, she was a woman who would research when she was researching for her novel. So she would research, and the way that's written makes me feel like she did research after the fact on them. So if she went to an anthropologist, or if she went to the 1930s World Book Encyclopedia or whatever, and that said that they were devil worshippers, can you really blame her for that? Because she's the one who did her due diligence. She did what you need to do to educate yourself. She was just educated on incorrect information from places where you should be able to safely assume you were getting correct information. So that was something I found interesting to kind of think about. I think you can fall, boy, my family's noisy upstairs. You can fall wherever, however you feel about that. But I just want to say where I fall on that is I'm not holding that against her. It was weird. But I think that she did what she needed to do to be responsible as a writer. It's just that the accepted belief at the time by the people who should know better and the people who are considered experts was incorrect. So I can't blame that on her. But all in all, if you have never read Agatha Christie and you don't really like mysteries and you don't want to deal with, I don't know, some of the anti-Semitic stuff, which I get, because let me tell you, Lord Edward died would have been a lot better had I read a version of the book that didn't have it. This is so much fun. This book was just fun, and it was joy. Oh, the other part I wanted to talk about was she had started this book shortly after the events that happened in it. So she probably started it in the mid 1930s. And she says this all in the epilogue. And then she put it aside, probably to write things that made her money. And then in 1944, so during World War II, she was in London during World War II. She did not believe that she was going to survive the war. So she was in a pretty dark place. And she started this book again. And it was her escape. And I think it was her joy. And that shows in this book, because this book just exudes joy. So if you've never read Agatha Christie and you're not into mysteries, you're not really interested in reading mystery Agatha Christie, but you want to read a fun memoir, this is a great one. And if you have read Agatha Christie, you're in for a treat with this book, because it's different, but it gives you a look to this woman, and you probably won't read her mysteries the same afterwards. So, and that is Come Tell Me How You Live, an Archaeological Memoir by Agatha Christie Mallowan. So if you liked this video, first of all, I'm going to have to be editing this video because there's been noise like crazy. So if this is a weird jumpy video, blame my family. But if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.